honestly, early on, horror is always an avenue for low budget filmmakers to break out. It has historically been and remains one of the best ways to move from no budget to some budget.
Mm-hmm.
And if it weren't for those horror films, I mean, I was barely surviving as a filmmaker. It was the success of VHS. It was the success of A Horrible Way to Die, Ty's film, The Sacrament. I mean, these horror films saved me at a time where I was not sure if I could afford to keep.
Joe, how are you, first of all?
I'm just great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Where are you at?
I'm in Chicago at home.
Yes, I'm in the burbs. I'm in Des Plaines.
Nice.
Local.
Yeah, I went to high school
yeah, Naperville, right?
Yep.
There you go. Yeah. Southern, burbs. I mean, well, Western kind of, but yeah, nearby, for those that don't know. It's funny thing is, like, you've been like this mythological figure in my life, in a sense. When I went to I was taking film classes, right? My professor, who's like a local Chicago filmmaker, Michael Glover Smith, he raved about you, and then your ex-wife, at the time. Like, it was just like, he was such a fan of like how you create a micro budget kind of style filmmaking. So we'd hear about you so often in class and like see movies screened by you. And I was like still kind of, new to film, but I knew a lot about you before I saw your work, by the way. Yeah, that was years ago too. So it's awesome.
Well, I'm glad it was that reputation and not like avoid this guy at all costs. This is the worst filmmaker ever.
It's like, well, I guess the good thing is like you are a big Chicago figure. We're proud of you out here. You know what I mean? In so many facets. So that's a good Chicago pride, as you know.
All right. Hell yeah.
take it with a grain of salt, you know what I mean, for what it's worth. But I mean, I have been a fan of your work from the stuff you wrote, like The Rental, the Drinking Buddies. I've seen a lot of your work over the years, so it's cool, kind of, not only to see you continue to do it all, but I always wondered, like, what is your favorite thing to do? Is it the writing? Is it the acting? Because you kind of continue to work on it all and keep up with all of it, not center yourself to one thing. Do you have like a favorite when it comes to?
I think that I think of myself as a director. That's kind of, but I love acting. I would say acting is certainly much more fun for me than directing is often. Just because I don't have to be in charge. It's such a nice
right.
vacation to go act. Let Mickey Keating deal with the headaches and logistics, and I just get to show up and do my part. But in terms of like, if I had to pick one, I probably am a director first. That's closest to my heart, and then I'm an actor when friends ask me.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. You know enough people, to get in their projects too. So it's
exactly my entire career is based on friends casting me in movies. It's that simple.
But it's a nice way to make a career too, because like you see a lot of like your peers too, when you look back at your older films and whatnot, you guys kind of rising now, becoming major stars too. Like you came up with a lot of people too in the same way, working alongside them and doing small projects, and now they've made it to where they're creating major stuff.
I know, it's pretty amazing.
It's a really good way to have that kind of brotherhood in a sense, where you kind of support each other's careers and work with together when sometimes small projects with little, money or anything at stake, just passion projects. But then you get to a point where you can really see each other rise.
Yeah, for sure. Early on, we were lending equipment to each other, acting in each other's films, crewing on each other's films. I mean, it really was, no one had any money. We all had time. We were underemployed and very excited about filmmaking. And I feel so lucky. I mean, I sometimes can't even believe it myself. I mean, it's really was a successful cohort of people, and we pushed each other. We definitely grew together. We navigated the industry together. It's so helpful. I mean, coming from the no budget indie world and starting to navigate bigger projects and bigger budgets, it's so helpful to have friends who come slightly ahead of you. I was able to really lean on Ty West and David Lowery and Lena Dunham, and a lot of people who kind of like moved from film into TV slightly ahead of me, or moved low budget to bigger budgets sooner than I did. And so I do feel so grateful, so lucky to have had that group of friends and to have learned so much. Adam Wingard, another person who I just learned so much from, and then just shot into this stratospheric category, but still, that's my friend. I can just ask him questions, or pull on him for advice sometimes, and it's so great.
Yeah, and it also must be a tremendous help that you did all the different jobs. You kind of understand the small jobs on set to the biggest ones, to being in front of the screen, to behind the screen. You've done it all coming up, and I can only imagine how that's reaped benefit, whether you're acting or directing or writing. It's just, you've seen all the jobs being done.
Yeah. All of us did. I mean, I think that is actually one of the keys to why this group of filmmakers has been so successful, because we really did not compartmentalize the filmmaking process. There was no like, I'm a director and that means I only direct, or I'm a cinematographer, or I'm an actor. It was like, hey, I need you to step in and help me out tomorrow. Throwing jobs around. Same with all of us. I mean, we all came from making movies all by ourselves. So when you know how to do all that stuff by yourself, it's so helpful to have a crew suddenly. You're so it feels like you have a ton of money all of a sudden when you just have 3 people there helping you.
That's right.
I was grateful for the no budget. And my film school also, I went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, and that school really prepared me. Like, you're going to do every job yourself. You need to know how to record sound. You need to know how to load a film camera. You need to know how to edit on 16 millimeter work print, but also digital. I mean, they taught us to be a one-man band, and that was a great lesson as a young person.
No question. I feel like you have a thing for the horror genre. I mean, seeing you in the off season, it's like, oh, it's reminiscent a bit of The Rental and You're Next and some of the other stuff you've done. It's always a very dark kind of like isolated area in the woods, or what might not. And you've written this kind of stuff too. What kind of draws upon you? Maybe some experiences or whatnot that you kind of, in a sense, are gravitated towards this genre, or find yourself working in it a lot?
Well, I have to say, like, honestly, early on, horror is always an avenue for low budget filmmakers to break out. It has historically been and remains one of the best ways to move from no budget to some budget. And if it weren't for those horror films, I mean, I was barely surviving as a filmmaker. It was the success of VHS. It was the success of A Horrible Way to Die, Ty's film, The Sacrament. I mean, these horror films saved me at a time where I was not sure if I could afford to keep making films, or so, and it branched me out of my micro budget relationship drama kind of world. I mean, I still would say more people come up and talk to me about You're Next than any film I've ever made. So I just I came up in high school loving horror films. I mean, honestly, I always liked them and always thought I would make them. The Coen brothers and Sam Raimi were sort of early influence examples of like, oh, okay, you can start in horror and then you can navigate your way out. The Roger Corman stuff, knowing that John Sayles and Paul Bartel and all these guys kind of came out of the Corman horror camp and then moved into making their own personal films. So, that was a pathway for me. Trauma even was like huge for me in high school. Like, just seeing how doable and makeable these films were. Lloyd Kaufman's attitude of just do it, don't ask questions, don't ask permission, just go make it. So I always felt inspired by horror. I always felt connected to the horror scene. But then when I started making my own stuff, I'm not a technical filmmaker like that. I'm not a jump scare kind of horror crafts person.
Right.
And so I was just making my indie relationship dramas. But whenever I was at film festivals, I was always drawn to the horror guys. Ty West was one of the first friends I made. We had our first features at South by together. David Lowery, met soon after that. Wingard I met soon after that. Like I kept gravitating to these horror guys because I think we had the same DIY, no budget ethos. And so, you know, I just got pulled in via friendship and favors and things like that, you know.
Before I let you go, I need a movie recommendation for you. What's something that people maybe haven't seen or underrated, or one of your favorite kind of things that you would recommend? Because I feel like you would have a good recommendation.
I just watched an awesome movie last night. Let me grab the DVD.
Okay.
This is my recommendation. It's called Bad Luck Banging or Looney Porn.
I heard of this.
Distributed by Yeah, it won the Berlin Film Festival in 2021 last year. It is so, I watched it last night. I just loved it. It's really a wild, wild movie. That's definitely my recommendation right now. I say track it down. It's really worth the time. Crazy movie.
Okay, I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it. So perfect, right there. Good that you reminded me of it. I came across it, but I never got to check it out. So positive review.
You're in for a wild ride. It's nuts.
Love it. Well, hey, Joe, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. I always root for Chicago people. It's good that you're representing and doing things in the right way. I know you're a Chicago guy through and through, still living here, at least staying here. So that's always a great thing.
I live here full time, man. This is my city.
There you go. Hey, hope to catch up on the next one and keep on doing great work.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joe.